Hello, I'm Robin Vincent and welcome to Molten Modular. Today we're looking at a lovely fat new filter from Erica Synths. Erica Synths are just about to release a new range of fusion modules. These are their higher end, gorgeous, often tube infused modules which they are in the process of refreshing, and they've sent me a couple of them to try out. And for the purpose of this review we are looking at the new Fusion VCF3. Now I know it says VCF2 on the top of mine. That's because this is like the last prototype they had before they went into full production. So there's just a couple of little tiny tweaks and changes that they've made to the final version, one of them being the name. But other than that, it's pretty much almost goddamn it there. And although the Fusion range can be a little bit intimidating, I'm certainly intimidated, I can tell you with some confidence that it is just a filter. It's a filter. Like, yeah, filter. Yeah, filter. So what is it about the Fusion VCF3 that makes it interesting, different, unique, special? Any of those things? Is there any of that kind of factor in there? Well, yeah. I mean, I'm happy to report that there certainly is. I mean, I've just spent the last hour before attempting to do this video just playing, and it was amazing. Just amazing. I'm going to put whatever it was that I did into another, a no talkie type sound demo video. So do go and check that out. And I'll probably pepper this video with bits of it as well. And I'm going to do a little bit right now. But it's gorgeous. It's lovely. This is not how I expect an Erica Synths module to be. I mean, I have other bits and pieces from Erica Synths, and all of it is gorgeous in its gunginess, in its grit, in its dirt, in its wayward rock and roll feel. This is smooth. This is butter. This is sliding around like you've got honey-coated patch cables. It's gorgeous. You can feel it. You can absorb it. It doesn't rattle you. It cuddles you and envelops you. It's a lovely, lovely thing. So what does it have? Well, the reason why it's so lovely is because it's based on vactrols. Now, what does that mean? Well, that means that the varying resistance inside, because the cutoff knob here that we all use in filters, that's really kind of all we're interested in, is wanging that cut off about. Within this module, that is run by vactrols. Now, vactrols are a combination of a light and a light dependent resistor. The light goes on, the resistor goes, oh look, wakes up and does its thing, and then as the light goes out it closes down. And what vactrols do is they bring a natural kind of organic feel to the opening and closing of things. So rather than it being a complete just straight line on, off, or up, down, because the light is growing and something else is reacting to that, there's sort of an inbuilt lag, a drag, a kind of natural unfolding of something rather than open, shut. It's an unfolding. And that brings a level of smoothness to the turning of that knob that you wouldn't get in a, another filter based on some other form of technology. Now, this isn't the first filter to be based on that kind of technology. There's lots of them out there. Probably most famously, the Korg MS-20 is based on that. And you're thinking, oh, but the Korg MS-20 is a roar of a filter. Yeah, it is because of the resonance. But the cutoff itself is actually really, really smooth, as it is here. And then you have to talk about, so what is it that controls the voltage within that circuit? You can have all sorts of bits of technology and circuitry in there in order to control the voltages and ultimately move that resistance about the place. Well, within the Fusion, it's tube driven. Now, normally speaking, and I made this assumption straight away, is that the tubes on here, vacuum tubes, also known as valves, depending on which side of the Atlantic you are on, they, normally speaking, in an amplifier circuit, they provide the drive and the warmth. We like it on our audio signals. It makes things fat and round. That's not what this is doing. And that is actually what it used to do in the previous version of this filter. But in this case, the tubes are actually inside, dealing with the way the voltage is controlled. What does that mean? I'm not 100% sure. I think what it does, it's just a really good way of controlling a filter. And of course it looks nice because it glows. Doesn't glow hugely bright, it just glows a little bit, and that's a lovely thing. But actually that is not being applied to the audio signal, it's being applied to the voltages within inside. I think. You might have to look that up for yourself, but that's my understanding of it anyway. But the result is that you get this buttery, smooth filter with a very real, natural and organic feel to the control system within. And ultimately, it just gives you an immensely pleasurable experience. So let's have a little bit of a closer look at what's going on to see if I can give you a flavour of what's possible and what it can do. Now, it has some special features which we'll come to in a minute, but let's start with just the basic idea of putting a signal in and seeing what happens to it, because that's interesting, isn't it? I think so. So let's take an interesting waveform. I'm going to take one from my STO over here, plug that in. Now you should be able to see on the scope the sort of waveform that it is. Let's just open up the filter so that you can see the output. So with the Fusion VCF3, you have 3 inputs that you can use. You can mix 3 waveforms together and you've got level controls on each of them. There's operation amplifiers in here that will give a little bit of drive to the sound as you push it past the 12 o'clock mark. You can see it sort of flattening out in the second half, and you can also hear slight overtones coming in. That's nice. Now the idea with a filter is as you close a filter, the high frequencies are gradually cut off all the way down to the lower frequencies. So you should see the spikier bits disappearing as we turn the knob. So it gets rounder and rounder until you end up with really just the fundamental, which is a sine wave, till it closes completely. Bring it back in. As the higher frequencies get allowed back in, you can see it happening on the waveform and you can hear it. until we're back where we were. Lovely, there you go. That's a filter. That's a filter, that is. Now the other factor is this. This is the resonance knob. Now resonance pushes in a boost at the cutting edge of the filter, and that introduces all sorts of things. Let's just turn it up a little bit. Here there's more in that signal than there was before. If I take the resonance out, then start to bring it back in, you'll see the waves starting to fold, starting to introduce more and more little bits until it goes completely nuts. So with a little bit of resonance dialed in, you can hear those extra tones and overtones and harmonics. Now as you push the resonance up, it starts to self-oscillate, which means it sort of becomes an oscillator all by itself, and it starts to overwhelm the signal that's coming in, and it becomes all about the filter rather than the input signal. Now sort of detuning to itself. The interesting thing is that I can take out the input, and this is now just the filter all by itself, with the resonance turned up high. In fact, I could potentially put a tune into it, into the cutoff. Now I should stress that the filter isn't designed to be 1 volt per octave, so the resonance doesn't track exactly to what a normal oscillator would. That doesn't mean it's not an incredibly useful, interesting thing to play with. Now you can of course control the cutoff knob with an LFO, so bringing something in from the Batumi over here, plug that into the CV in. And I can control that with an LFO. I've got a knob here that controls how much of the voltage is coming in, an attenuator, so make that go full range. We'll bring it back to be a bit more subtle. Putting something a bit more random. One common thing to do is to use an envelope to open the filter, in time with the tune that you're pumping into it. So why don't we do that? I'm going to use the Fusion Modulator here to create a little envelope for it. Now, the Fusion Modulator is another new module from Erica Synths, and I'll be doing a review of that in a separate video, but I'm going to borrow some of it now, I think. So one aspect of the Fusion Modulator is that it's a simple envelope, attack decay, that's what you want. So now the envelope is opening the cutoff just in time with the sequence to give it that sort of acid feel. Now the Fusion VCF3 has a secret power, a superpower you might say, and that revolves around this big record button in the middle. Record, what on earth could that mean on a filter? Well, you see, what's special about this is that there's a knob here that you can record your own modulation on. What does that look like? Well, it looks a bit like this. A manually controlled filter. If I hold this and twiddle this knob, with a little bit of luck, I should do something interesting. Do you see? It is now moving the cutoff knob all by itself. I've kind of automated it. I've recorded a tiny bit of movement in here, and that's now repeating and looping itself into here. I can turn it off. So there it is. Nothing's going on. I can kill it. I can do some more. And once you have something recorded and controlling, you can then use the record knob again to divide and multiply. So that's it slower. Ooh, that's much faster. So the idea is, rather than plugging in an LFO, which of course you can do, you can just create your own. Now there's another interesting feature here that's associated with the recording CV, and that's this gate out here. Now I've not actually, confess, I've not looked at this bit yet. I've just remembered that it's there. And every time this goes past the 12 o'clock position when you're doing your recording, it generates a gate. Now I can stick that in something over here, potentially. So that's now triggering the 2 HP over there. Isn't that interesting? It's bringing something different. Is that it? No, not quite. There's a mix output, so you can actually take another route of the original signal back out. Just use it as a mixer and then mix the two together, or not. And that's the non-filtered cacophony. I'm sure at some point this evening when I was playing with that, it all came together perfectly. Now it's all over the place. And then there's the filtered version. That's nuts. Other things it has is got an input directly to the filter that misses the mixer. If you want to stick another sound source in, you can do that. It also has a mult for CV and audio, so you can plug an audio signal in and split that into 3 to put it in other places. One thing perhaps it won't do is that it doesn't handle audio rate modulation because of the vactrols, because of the amount of lag that's involved in shifting stuff about. It can't handle modulation at that speed. So that perhaps is the only thing it can't do. Now I'm going to see if I can get my sequences back in order just to give you a final flurry. The Erica Synths Fusion VCF3 is a superb filter on a lot of different levels. It's lovely to look at. The dual valves sitting there glowing at you gently. The arrangement of the knobs, the deep darkness that Erica loves so much, and just the little touches of graphics on the front. It's a beautiful module. The basic specifications it gives you with 3 inputs, which is always useful, being able to take a mix back out so you can bypass the filter altogether or mix it together with the filtered version for even more mixed feelings and timbres and moving those things in and out of each other. A built-in mult, which just seem a little strange, to be honest, but it's a useful thing. It's a useful thing. And then there's just that sound. The way that it's different to other filters that I have. I've got a Jove filter, which is amazingly musical, and I've got an Instruo filter, which has a beauty to it, which I haven't quite fathomed out yet. Here it's something to do with smoothness. It's like a waterfall. It's like movement is just smoothly flowing over and around rocks and bits and pieces. Although you can push it into a certain amount of screaming, it's not a death knell. It's not a scream or a wail of a banshee. It's the overdoing of operatic something or other. It's the soul of a singer trying to break out of her chest. It's that kind of sound, that kind of vibe. But none of that in an angry way, always in a way that's reaching for beauty. You know, the heart trying to break out because it just needs to envelop the entire world. That kind of thing. It's immensely fun to play with, gracious. You can get so creative with it. It just invites you to play. You can't stop fiddling with it. It's amazing. The ability to record your own modulation that's a brilliant little thing. It's totally brilliant, because you're forever fiddling about with things and then sticking in envelopes and things like that to sort of act out how you would do it, and then it drops into that very familiar acid type pattern. Whereas because you can draw in your own envelope just like that within the module itself, you can start doing different things, have it differently. You can create interesting LFOs without suddenly having to patch together a whole bunch of different LFOs through the VCA to sort of come up with something else. You can just dial it in with a quick wiggle. It's brilliant. Just brilliant. I'm not completely sure if I know exactly where that's going or what that affects or what this knob does, but I know that they've changed it slightly in the production version, so it will probably make a little bit more sense than it does to me at this time. But through exploration, you find not what you were looking for, but just something wonderful anyway. So there you have it, the Erica Synths Fusion VCF3, a tube and vactrol filter. What a beautiful thing. I hope that's given you some kind of inkling as to what this module can do. And next I'm going to be looking into the Fusion Modulator, which I've used a little bit in this and I'm just starting to get the hang of, so look out for that review. And if you like what I do, then please feel free to support. You can share, you can like it, you can subscribe, you can tell your friends, you can write me a letter, that's always nice, or you can join us on Patreon and throw me a couple of quid so I can keep on making videos like this. And don't forget that there's loads and loads of stuff like this in the channel, reviews of modules, reviews of synths, MIDI controllers, audio interfaces, software, DIY, big synths, little synths, all sorts of stuff in the channel all the time. But in the meantime, go and make some tunes.